to get into some SHIN versus Cyan action, and here we go. We're already diving in. We barely got to cover the bracket. We'll go over it later. We'll go over the bracket as the tournament does progress. But here we go. Spawning in the top right-hand corner of Solaris, we have a red Zerga player representing Mystery Gaming. It is SHIN. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, we have as opponent, we have the blue Protoss player. The Chinese Protoss, also representing Mystery Gaming. He is no longer a starving camel, relatively picked up by Mystery Gaming. It is Cyan. One of the best Protoss in all of Asia, the Asia region, not including Korea, but Cyan has been looking very powerful recently. For those that were here during the IM Katowice qualifiers a couple of weeks ago, then you would have seen Cyan take down some big Korean names. He popped off that weekend. Cyan was able to qualify, and he'll be flying to Poland to compete in IM Katowice alongside Firefly. So Cyan has been really improving. Like, unironically, like both Cyan and Firefly, they both more and more regularly take down some of these big Korean players. I wouldn't say that they're favorites, but again, they do cause these upsets more and more often nowadays. So yeah, Cyan is not out of this. I wouldn't be surprised if this goes to the ace match. We have casted and seen Cyan beat Dark. Like, that has happened, like, recently as well in KSL. It was like maybe 3 weeks ago in KSL, or 4 weeks ago now. So again, Cyan has been improving a lot over the past year. It's been great to see him grow, but can he take down SHIN here and now? Again, SHIN, he is nicely warmed up. He's going for a hatch gas pull standard opener out of SHIN. And Cyan opted not to go for the probe scout. He opted, what I mean by that, there's a probe scout here, but he opted not to delay the expansion and not to try and disrupt the opener of SHIN. Went for a later probe scout instead. This is going to be dipping into the main base, getting an eye on the saturation, getting an eye on the drone count before pulling back. From here, Lings, they do pop out to just chase down some of these probes. We have our Stargate opener from Cyan as well. It's going to be looking pretty normal. Should be Oracle into a third base, so Cyan going for a standard opener himself. And this is where I should talk a little bit about Cyan's style. He isn't really too much of an aggressive player like Firefly. Firefly can be tricky. Firefly, he can go for a big all-in, he can go for a Glaive of Depths as a follow-up, he can go for, double Stargate Void Ray. Firefly can be very unpredictable. Cyan, less so. Cyan, he's a lot more stable, a lot more sane. He thrives a lot more in the mid-game. I'm talking about getting up to 3-4 base saturation, double Robo Colossus production. Ooh, as I say that, it is not Oracle first. It's a Void Ray. Show us what you got. So Cyan going Void Ray first. With this, he's going to be hunting down these Overlords. He's going to be looking to clear up any kind of vision that SHIN has, and he will keep SHIN in the dark as to the follow-up tech. Now, the follow-up tech could be a multitude of things. It could be a Robo first into Forge. It could be a Twilight Council without a Forge for Glaive of Depths. It could be a standard game into Oracles, into a third base, into Blink. It could be double Stargate Void Ray. It could be anything. SHIN won't know. SHIN shouldn't know. Oh, as we are going for a very fast Roach Warren here. Okay, this is going to be a sub 4 minute Roach Warren out of SHIN. Void Ray does move out. So, against a Stargate opener, this is not necessary. You do not throw down a Roach Warren unless you believe it's a Twilight Council opener or a Robo. Against a Stargate, Roaches don't do anything, so this is very suspect from SHIN. We'll see if he does commit to something. We'll see if he makes use of it, or if he's just scared. Third base is being taken, Lings are being forced back, we have an Oracle behind this, and we're still waiting for the follow-up tech. Void Ray does kill one of these Overlords already, and we're looking for another. Bearing in mind that Cyan, he is aware of this Overlord. He is aware of this Overlord, he knows where it is, and he should be hunting it down soon. As the Oracle does get in between the bases, we're going to be getting 3 drone kills here already. Oh no! Almost went down, but we get 3 drone kills here on the right-hand side. Not too bad, the Oracle does escape, and we have our follow-up. It's going to be a Twilight Council and a Forge. This looks like +1 and Blink, so it's going to be a standard follow-up here out of Cyan. Meanwhile, Ling's going for a counterattack. Units are in position. We can maybe go for the Sentry, but we should force out a Force Field. Oh! Force field is too little too late. The sentry does go down. Nice pickup here out of SHIN. Making these things worth his while. Meanwhile, we spoke about the early roach run, and this was early, this was aggressive, but we can see that we're not making any roaches. So it looks like it was just a safety precaution. It looks like he was just a little bit concerned about what Cyan was doing and did throw down a roach warren. This is inefficient out of SHIN, but safe. As we're just droning. We are just droning up. Behind this, my apologies, it was not +1 in blink, it's +1 in charge, and we are going for a gateway explosion. 4 gates on the way, 2 gates already done. That's going to be 6 gates in total. Quite a hefty amount of these charge lots, and I'm curious if we're going to be hitting a timing with Templar Archives. So traditionally, the way this works, as we get a couple more drones across the map, traditionally the way this works is that we're going up to 8 gates, you throw down Templar Archives, and you hit with Archons, and there it is. Templar Archives is on the way, so this is going to be lined up just in time for the push with the Warp Prism. It's going to be a Warp Prism first from this Robo. We get across the map, we warp in 4 High Templar, warp in those Archons, and we hit with a wave of Zealots. That's typically how this goes, but we'll see if Cyan takes a more defensive or passive approach. Meanwhile, he's killed 5 workers so far. We do see SHIN taking up himself. He's joining up to 3-base saturation, working on his 4th base. SHIN's economy is looking good, and he's going for a Spire, trying to sneak into Mutas. This can work quite well. The problem is that Cyan is soon going to be pushing out. There's that War Prism that we spoke about. Again, Prism first, Templar Archives is done. We're going to be warping in a High Templar across the map for those Archons, and we're pushing. We're going to be hitting a very strong push here with these Chargeless and Archons. And if SHIN saves money for these Mutas, then he won't have a ground army for the push. Here we go. Lings, they do run into the army. They run into Chargelots and Archons. A couple of Lings get shaved off, but at least SHIN has forewarning. Now he knows. He knows what kind of army he's dealing with, and he's going to be preparing back at home. Roaches are in production. I love this. SHIN, he does have resources saved up for Mutas, but he's making a wave of Roaches to be safe. And there we go. 7 Mutas are on the way. The army is pushing now. What is scary here is that Archons can deal with a low amount of Mutas. So Mutas won't really work too well defensively. And we are arriving here at the 4th base. We have sentries and force fields. Would you look in the Roaches? Oh my god! Clutch Transfuse does keep them alive. Zelda being forced back. Sage Trap does go up, but oh, they're not ideal. Force field did barely miss those Roaches as well. And Cyan should be backing up from here. At the same time, a big Zealot warp into the main base, but the Mutas have arrived, and the Mutas, they shut down the Prism. Roaches, they arrive just in time as well to get on top of these Archons, and SHIN is swatting this away. The initial attack wasn't too bad here from Cyan, but he did overcommit and bled out a little bit too much. Delta going down. We get 7 worker kills, and the Mutas are coming in to clean up this Archon. Archon goes down. Expensive loss for Cyan. He lost everything here. The Archons, the Prism, the Zealots, and the Sentries. And now SHIN, he's snowballing out of control, going for a massive counterattack. Cyan in a lot of trouble. Again, without that War Prism, he cannot harass across the map. He cannot juggle with his units. He can't do anything. And SHIN, he's chasing him down. Archon's falling. Immortal's falling as well. We have the Overcharge, keeping these units alive a little bit longer. Oh my god, the Overcharge, putting in a lot of work. Unironically. Does put in a lot of work. Roaches are being forced back for the time being. Yeah, Zealot do a great job here just buffering for the Immortals. But if the Void Ray goes down, that means there's no anti-air. And the Mutas, they reign supreme. Shut down another Immortal. The 4th base is getting up and running. But again, SHIN wants to end the game here and now. He pulls back for a moment. Morphs in a wave of Ravagers. The Mutas, they get into the main. Oh, Mutas are going to be hunted down though. Bit of an expensive loss there for SHIN. He is going to be knocking down these rocks, pushing up the ramp. Rotating over towards the 4th. More secure damage here from SHIN. Cyan does have a hefty worker count. Can we hold on? We have 2 Immortals, we have an Archon, we have a handful of Gateway units. We do trade well against the Lings, but what about the Roach Ravager? The Wilds. Wilds, they connect, they take down an Archon. They take down an Immortal. Yeah, and GG gets called. There's nothing left for the Protoss, and SHIN will take game number 1. GG. And again, Cyan, he kind of put all his eggs in one basket. Essentially, that first push, the first push with the charge lots with the Archons, that was what Cyan was building up towards. But he did get scattered ahead of time. Not just that, but the mutas were also able to snowball out of control as well. And in the end, Cyan, he lost his initial army. And with the loss of that army, things snowballed very quickly out of control. Snowballed out of control, and with that, SHIN takes the first game, but that was merely game 1. I'm ready for game 2. We are ready for game number 2 as we're going to be loading into Hard Lead. Here we go. Catching up in the chat. Oh, I'm ouch. I'm ouch even. Welcome, welcome. GG, papi, GG. GG. But yeah, if you want to watch the VODs, you can either check out the VOD on YouTube or on Twitch. We are streaming on both platforms, and you can check out the VODs there. As here we go, spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Hard Lead, we have our... Oh my, we have our Korean Zerg player, the Red Zerg, representing Mystery Gaming. It is SHIN. And spawning in the top left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the Chinese Protoss player representing Mystery Gaming as well, as this is a team kill. It is Cyan. Go. Ooh, as this time Cyan comes in for a block, but that was a 15 hatchery timing. Sorry, it was a 15 hatchery timing out of SHIN. Able to throw down that hatchery just in time. So a bit of a cheeky maneuver there from our Zerg player. Does get a slightly earlier hatchery to make sure it didn't get blocked. Was quite close, but got there just in time. And with that, SHIN is going to have a much more comfortable early game here as we're getting into a hatch gas pool. Overall, a standard opener outside of the earlier hatchery. Cyan back at home is going to have to get into his own build as well. It's going to be a gate expand into the Cyber Core. Standard opener from our Protoss. Let us go. From here, we can go a couple of different directions as well, but the pressure is on Cyan in this series. He needs to bounce back. He needs to fight back somehow, some way. I imagine another Stargate opener, but we'll see if he goes Void Ray again. We'll see if he goes into Oracles. We do have options. Have options as, again, for the time being, the opener is going to be standard. Pylon gets thrown down. This looks like a pylon for a Stargate just because it's a little bit further out, a little bit closer to the edge of the map or the edge of the main base, but we'll see if we do commit to that as, yeah, the initial tech is going to be thrown down, and there it is going to be a Stargate. Now, winding it back, if you remember, last game it was a Void Ray first. It was a Void Ray opener from Cyan to kind of hide his charge transition, which did damage, but did kind of fall in its face a little bit. With this, I would love the idea of going Void Ray first again, but this time going for something different. Going for either Glaive Adepts, Sky Toss. Like, there are still a lot of options available for the Protoss off of a Void Ray opener, so I do love the idea of kind of playing around with it and making it look like the same build when really it isn't. The mind games, buddy. The mind games. We shall see. Cyan gets across the map with his Adepts. Going to be trading against some of these Lings. Going to be threatening the mineral line if possible. Looks like will shade away. Will be forced back. Meanwhile, Cyan opting to go for a Oracle first, not a Void Ray. Interesting. Will be switching gears here and going for something more standard. More standard build out of Cyan. You know, SHIN back at home, just getting into his queen production. Spores are on the way. We have 2 queens in the main. We have 2 queens here at the natural. Soon to be 3. Plenty of anti-air in position. We do ignore them though. We go straight for the drones. We get 2 worker kills. do sustain a lot of hull damage. We try to camp the production here, and can we get another egg? I don't think we can. Ugh. So we take a lot of hits. From here, we take a third base. So again, a very economic build overall from Cyan. Moves out with the second Oracle. We have a third Oracle on the way. So his goal here is just keep the pressure up and keep keep SHIN busy back at home. Up. As we do get another 2 workers, but again, we take a lot of hull damage. Take a lot of damage here. 7 HP left. The second Oracle barely gets out. And for the first 2 Oracles to be deep in the red, this is not the best sign for Cyan. Meanwhile, Overlord's being forced back. We do have our transition here. It's going to be Twilight Council and Forge once again. SHIN has eyes on this. This could be +1 in charge or +1 and blink. Either or could be viable here for Cyan. As now we have a much more standard Roach time. Roach Warren on the way. Not done yet. Not as early as last game because SHIN was a little bit paranoid. A little bit scared, and now full of confidence. Going for a much more standard Roach timing. As the Oracles do threaten the main. Again, there are 3 of them. They have a lot of DPS. A lot of DPS, but not a lot of HP. They are very much so glass cannons that are made out of paper right now. 2 of them at least. There it is, +1 blink, so a very standard follow-up. +1 blink stalkers. Now from here we can go into a 3-base all-in. If we don't take like additional gases, if we obviously don't take a 4th and we go for a gateway explosion, or this could just be a way to turtle up and get into robot production, into like double robot colossus, into immortal production. He's on the table. Meanwhile, massive stasis trap. The stalkers have arrived. They are supported by these oracles. They'll be applying some pressure here to the 3rd base. Meanwhile, SHIN once again going for the Spire. Multas are on the way. Now, this time, he's going to be dealing with a mass amount of Blink Stalkers, so there's going to be plenty of anti-air. So SHIN has to be careful. The Lings, though, they want to try to get a surround on this. They don't quite find one. Good movement out of Cyan. Does avoid the surround, but will be losing his Adept. As we are working towards +1 range. Working towards Roach speed. Looks like we're only making enough mutas to harass. Otherwise, wouldn't be investing so heavily into Roaches. Saying a single-digit amount of mutas should be on the way. As SHIN is working on his 4th. Getting his 4th up running, going to be joining up. Saturating his base. As Cyan is slowly working on his 4th. And you can see that he's being relatively passive. Now he's moving out, but he's been chilling, establishing his 4th, taking up, working towards charge. And meanwhile, SHIN, he was waiting for him here on top of that creep. Does collapse on some of these stalkers. +1 stalker does go down. Not the best trade here from SHIN, but he's keeping the attention here on the front lines, forcing another big warp in, and then here come the mutas towards the main. They're headed towards the main base. Meanwhile, the stalkers rotating around. They do catch a Ravager. Ravager gets picked up. Big stasis trap here on the Lings. Very nice stasis. At the same time, we piled down an Oracle. Roaches are pushing in at the same time. Mutas, they try to dive into the main base, but we are ready for it. This time, stalkers were in position. Stack defense as well. Good reactions out of Cyan. But the main army is still breaking through. There we go. We have the overcharge. It's going to be piled down. Oof. Not quite connecting with stalkers instead. But the Ling Roach Ravager breaking through the defensive line. A lot of stalkers are falling. Overcharge did run out. Oh, it wasn't even powered. The pylon went down. SHIN is going to back up. He's going to rebuild, remax. Looks like there was a Zealot counterattack, but it did run into reinforcements. And the mutas, they're not done. They may not have dealt any damage in the main, but they do find some damage here at the natural. Just keeping the attention of Cyan here back at home. Forcing a defensive warp in. Well, here comes the main army pushing towards that center base. Once again, the Biles, they get the Oracle. The Oracle gets biled down. And these stalkers are so vulnerable. They need support on their own. They're quite fragile, actually. There we go. Zealots are warped in to help defend. I say fragile. They're quite expensive is maybe a better way to put it. Expensive losses here for Cyan as more Stalkers get picked off. We have another overcharge, but the Biles will bring it down. And it looks like SHIN, he has broken this fourth base. Muta's still wreaking havoc here in the natural Cyan, trying to keep up. The Biles, they take down the mineral line. 9 probes go down. And Lings, they come in to reinforce. GG gets called, and SHIN will take the series 2-0, advancing on to the quarterfinals. GG. GG, well played. SHIN looking strong here, able to bring down Cyan without too much issue, both in Game 1 and Game 2. SHIN was very much so in control of these games. There were moments for Cyan, definitely. There were moments. There were moments, but moments are not good enough here as SHIN did take the series, and Cyan is going to be eliminated from the tournament. Again, it is single elimination. Single elim tournament. It is brutal, very cutthroat. Little room for error. And that means we are getting ready for our next series. Oh boy.